We continue now at the top of Daf Memamad Aleph Meseches Yoma. This is Yoma Daf 40a. And the previous summit we had a machlokas between Rabbi Yana and Rabbi Yochanan, whether the hagrola, whether drawing the lots by the two goats on Yom Kippur, is that ma'akev or is that not ma'akev? And the Gemara now is in the middle of asking from a brisa which seems to clearly say it's not ma'akev. And the Gemara says, Ela lahach lishna, but according to that lashon, the Amrit Pligi, who says that within the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda, in other words, Rabbi Yehuda says that if you do an avoda bebigdei loven bachutz, normally that's not ma'akev, and they're arguing within Rabbi Yehuda, meaning even within Rabbi Yehuda, who says that's not ma'akev, Rabbi Yana comes along and says the hagrola is ma'akev. So bishlama laman da'amar lo ma'akev, it's okay according to the one who says, meaning Rabbi Yochanan, who says that Rabbi Yehuda will hold in this case it's not ma'akev either, in the case of hagrola, hamani Rabbi Yehuda, you can simply say the brisa is Rabbi Yehuda. Ela laman da'amar ma'akev, but according to the one who says that even Rabbi Yehuda will say it's ma'akev, meaning according to Rabbi Yanai, who says even Rabbi Yehuda says that hagrola is ma'akev, hamani, who's the author of this brisa, we have no author. Rashi over here says, according to the lashon that says they're arguing within the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar Rabbi Yanai ma'akva, and Rabbi Yanai says even within Rabbi Yehuda it's ma'akev. The kol shekein Rabbi Nechemia, and for sure according to Rabbi Nechemia, who holds in general if you have avodas that are done b'bigdei loven bachutz, it's going to be ma'akev. So certainly this case of hagrola is going to be ma'akev. Hamani, so who is Rabbi Yanai going to say is the author of this brisa? Lo Rabbi Yehuda, v'lo Rabbi Nechemia, doesn't fit according to Rabbi Yehuda, it doesn't fit according to Rabbi Nechemia. And so the Gemara answers, Tani, rather you have to change the brisa to say mitzvah lohaniach. It's a mitzvah to place the lots down on the animal. In other words, the brisa is not talking about hagrola at all, it's talking about hanacha. By hanacha, everyone agrees that's not ma'akev, as Rashi over here says, Tani mitzvah lohaniach, v'im lo hiniach kosher. If you don't do the hanacha, if you don't place down the lots, it's still going to be kosher. Uvaha kuli alma modu. In this, everybody agrees it's not ma'akev. Tivinesina lotana bakra, because by nesina it doesn't say it, it doesn't repeat it in the pasuk a second time. Therefore, there's no reason to think it's ma'akev. And so the Gemara tries another proof. Tashma, coming here, another proof from a brisa. Mitzvah lahagril. The brisa says it is a mitzvah to do the hagrola, to draw the lots. Ulehis vados, and it's also a mitzvah to do the vidoy, to do the confession. Rashi over here says, Ulehis vados al seir hamishtaleach. You do a vidoy on the seir that's sent out. Kedichsiv isvado olav gomer. Like the pasuk says, you have to do a confession, you have to do a vidoy. And then the brisa continues, lo higril v'lo hisvada. If the person doesn't do the hagrola, the person doesn't draw the lots, or he doesn't do the confession, kosher, it's still going to be kosher. Meaning again, you have a brisa saying the hagrola is not ma'akev. Same question as before. And the Gemara says, v'chiteimen, if you're going to say, hachanami lohaniach, here also the brisa does not mean to say, to do the hagrola, it's talking about the hanacha. It's saying the hanacha is not going to be ma'akev. If you don't do it, it's kosher. But that's not going to fit in this case. Amos Sefer, let's take a look at the end of this brisa. The brisa says, Rabbi Shimon says, lo higril kosher. He says, if you don't draw the lots, it's kosher. Lo hisvada possible, but if you don't do the vidoy, that's possible. In other words, Rabbi Shimon says, the vidoy is ma'akev. So in the Sefer, what does the word higril mean? My lo higril, what does it mean that you don't draw the lots? Ilema lo hiniach, if you're going to say that Rabbi Shimon means if you don't do the hanacha, it's going to be kosher, michlal de Rabbi Shimon savar hagrola ma'akva, that would imply that Rabbi Shimon holds that the hagrola is ma'akev. In other words, the hanacha is not ma'akev, but the hagrola is ma'akev. As Rashi says, Ilema lo hiniach behahuhu dekam Rabbi Shimon kosher. Only by the hanacha the implication would be Rabbi Shimon says it's kosher, it's not ma'akev. Aval aliyosu mitoch kalfi islay Rabbi Shimon de ma'akva. But you're going to say, according to Rabbi Shimon, that Rabbi Shimon will hold the actual drawing of the lots from the box is going to be ma'akev. V'atanya, but the Gemara says we learned in a brisa not like that. The brisa says meis echad mehen. If one of the seirim die, mevi chaveru shelo behagrola. You bring the other one without doing hagrola. Divrei Rabbi Shimon, that's the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Clearly Rabbi Shimon holds hagrola is not ma'akev. So that must be what Rabbi Shimon is saying in the first brisa as well. He's saying the hagrola is not ma'akev. Rashi over here says, V'atanya meis echad mehen la'achar hagrola. Let's say after you draw the lots, one of them dies. Di'efshar od lahagril, because you can't do another lottery. Elam ken yavi shnayim acherim, unless you bring two other goats. V'yelech echad le'ibud, and now one of the goats is going to go le'ibud. You're going to not use it at all. It's going to be lost. Like it says in Perek Shnei Seir, right? And so Rashi continues explaining Rabbi Shimon, Mevi echad min ashurok tachas zeh shemeis. You bring one from the marketplace instead of the one that died. V'yechaveiro shal zeh, it'll accompany this other goat, ha'omi, which is still surviving. V'ein tzarech lahagril, and apparently you don't need to do another drawing of the lot. So you see again, Rabbi Shimon holds the hagrola is not ma'akev, and therefore clearly that first brisa is talking about hagrola. So now we have a kasha. The brisa implies hagrola is not ma'akev. And so the Gemara answers, Rabbi Shimon lo yoda maiko amri Rabbanon. Actually, Rabbi Shimon didn't know what the Rabbanon were saying. Here's what Rabbi Shimon was saying to the Rabbanon. Hagrola mamish kamrisu. If when you say the word hagrola, you literally mean hagrola, the drawing of the lots is not ma'akev, so then pligno alaychu b'chada. Then I argue with you only in one regard. I argue with you about the vidui. But hagrola de kamrisu hainu hanacha. But if when you said hagrola, you mean hanacha, and you mean to say hanacha is not ma'akev, but hagrola is ma'akev, then pligno alaychu b'tarti. Then I argue with you twice, because I say hagrola is not ma'akev. Rashi over here explains, Rabbi Shimon lo yada liolam lo higril de kamer tanakama kosher lo hiniachu. Really what the Tanakam was saying is the hanacha is not ma'akev. With the kasha lo hechi kamer Rabbi Shimon Allah lo higril kosher, and then you asked, well, if that's the case, why is Rabbi Shimon responding with hagrola when they're talking about hanacha? Hagrola zu hainu hanacha mashma. If hagrola means hanacha, what's Rabbi Shimon responding? To ilohel or pasul Rabbi Shimon lo tikshi. Don't ask that kasha. To lo higril de kamer Rabbi Shimon, because when Rabbi Shimon says the word lo higril mamish kamer, he means to say actually drawing the lots. He means hagrola mamish. V'lo havayoda de lo higril de kamer tanakama hanachu dekai. He didn't know that the hagrola means hanacha by tanakama. He doesn't know exactly what the tanakama means. V'hachi kamer lu Rabbi Shimon l'Rabbanon. Here's what Rabbi Shimon is saying to the Rabbanon. Ilo higril kosher de kamrisu hainu be'aliyah du hagrola mamish. If what you're saying is by hagrola, it's not ma'akev, so then pligno laichu b'choda below his vada. I'm just arguing by vidui. I say the vidui is ma'akev. You say the vidui is not ma'akev. V'hagrola de kamrisu hainu hanacha. Now, if you're saying that the hanacha is not ma'akev, but hagrola is, aval aliyah liditchu ma'akev, but the aliyah according to you, the hagrola according to you is ma'akev, pligno b'tarti. Then I argue with you twice. The lididi hagrola lo ma'akva klal, because according to me, hagrola is not ma'akev at all. V'havidoi ma'akev, and again, Rabbi Shimon says, I hold the vidoi is ma'akev. Well, Kamar Mefarish, time with the Tarvayo bevidoi. Gemara is going to explain what the reason is by vidoi, why they're arguing whether vidoi is ma'akev or not. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here, another proof. The Brisa says, Par ma'akev es ha'sa'ir, the par is ma'akev the se'ir, the bull is ma'akev the goat, u'se'ir ein ma'akev es ha'par, and the se'ir, the goat, is not ma'akev the par, b'matanos shabifnim, when it comes to the matanos that are given inside the Beis HaMikdash. Rashi over here explains, Par ma'akev es ha'sa'ir means to say, Im hikdem achas min ha'avodos shel se'ir ha'mu'uchoros l'shel par. Let's say a person does one of the avodos that are supposed to be by the se'ir a little later, and they do it before the par. V'asa kodem l'par, they do it before the avodah with the par. Ha'par shu roi li kodem lo, the par which should have went first, ma'akva, it's going to be ma'akev, u'poslan, it makes it puzzle. Ve'ena ololo, it's not going to be a good avoda. V'tzarech lachzor v'la'asoso la'achar ha'par. You're going to need to do that avoda of the se'ir after the par. That's already going to be a problem of doing it out of order. The Seder Avodah say in Kachi. Here's the Seder that the Avodah is supposed to be. But Parsha, this is the way the Avodah is in the Parsha. Betchila misvada ala par vidoi rishon. First you do the first confession on the par. V'yachagach magril ala seir. Then you do the lottery for the goats. V'yachagach misvada ala par vidoi sheni. Then you do a second confession on the par. V'shachdu, you shecht it. Umachnes kaf umachta v'nosin es hakatoris alo eish. You then bring the katoris into the Kodesh Kadashim. The gomer v'nosin midam ha'por ala kapores. Then you take from the blood of the par, you put it on the kapores. Ve'achagach shochet es ha'seir. Then you shech the seir. V'nosin mimenu ala kapores. You put from that on the kapores. Ve'achagach nosin midam ha'por ala paroches. Then you put from the blood of the par on the paroches. Ve'achagach midam ha'soir. Then you take from the blood of the goat. You put that on. Ve'achagach ma'ariv damim. Then you mix the blood together. V'nosin al mizbeach ha'pnimi. And you put on the inner mizbeach. That's the way the order is supposed to go. Aval ha'soir eino ma'akev es ha'par. But when it comes to the other direction, the soyer is not ma'akev the par, meaning, im hikdim avodas hapar v'hu min ha'meucharos. Let's say you take one of the later avodas of the par, and it's supposed to be later. L'shel seir, and you do it before the seir. V'asor lefnei seir, you do it before the avodah of the soyer. Ein hasoyer shaya roi likodem la posla. The seir, which should have went first, doesn't passel, doesn't cause a psul. B'matanos shebifnim ko'amri, the seder hapar ma'akev es hasoyer. And the Brisa clarifies, we're talking about the matanas that are done inside the Beis HaMikdash. That's where we say that the Seder HaPar is going to be Ma'akev the Seir. That if you do the par out of order, it's going to be Ma'akev the Seir. And the Gemara now explains the Brisa. B'shaloma par Ma'akev es HaSeir. I understand what it means that the par is Ma'akev the Seir. It means as follows. The aktame l'seir mekame par, that if you go ahead and you do the avoda of the seir before the par, lo ava velo klum, it's nothing, it's going to be a problem. If you try to do the seir before the par is ma'akev. Elo seir ain ma'akev es hapar. But what about the other way around? That the seir is not ma'akev the par, my niyu, what exactly does that mean? And Rashi over here explains, the aktame le seir al bein habad and mekame par lo asa klum. As we saw before, really the par, the giving of the blood, is supposed to go before the seir. If you do the seir before the par, that's going to be a problem. But what are we talking about when we say the seir is not ma'akev the par, meaning Eza avoda matzinu b'seir hakodemes l'shel par b'manos pnim. Where do we find any place where the seir is supposed to go in front of the par when it comes to these matanas, the giving of the blood? The name Allah that we would say she'im shina lahaktem es shel par lefana, that if you change and you do the par first, ein hasir haroy likadem lapos, it's not going to cause a psul. We don't find in general that you ever have a situation where the seir is going first. As Rashi just said, the order, you always do the matan damim of the par first and then the soyer. So what even does the brisa mean? And the Gemara continues and suggests, ileimudi aktim matanos de par behechel mekame matanos de seir bifnim. Maybe you'll say that what's going on over here, the brisa means, I did the matana of the dam of the par in the hechel, meaning on the paroches, before I did the matan of the seir inside, meaning by the kapores. Before I did the matan of the seir in the kodesh kadoshim, which is supposed to go first, I went ahead and did the matan of the dam on the paroches outside the kodesh kadoshim of the par. But if that's what it means, chukah ksibuhu, that's going to be a problem, because it says the word chukah. In other words, it says that the avodos that are done bifnim, it is ma'akev, the order. So you can't say it's not ma'akev in such a situation. Rashi over here explains, Beheichol ala paroches, I do the avoda on the paroches of the par before I do the avoda of the soyer bifnim. Chukah ksibuhu, there it says the word chukah. To afilu Rabbi Yehuda, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, moda de advorim hanasin bifnim, he admits that those things that are done bifnim in the kodesh kadoshim, ksiv chukah, it certainly says the word chukah. Vareshina zeb avodas pinim, and this guy changed the order of things that are supposed to be done in the kodesh kadoshim. Sharei hikdem lo es shel chutz shimach mucheres lo. He did the matan of the damim bachutz against the paroches before the one bifnim. That certainly would be a problem. So that cannot be what the brisa means. And so the Gemara suggests that it must mean elalav da'aktim matanos de par bifnim mekame hagrola. What's going on over here is the person is doing the matan damim of the par in the kodesh kadoshim before he does the hagrola, before the kohen gadol draws the lottery by the soyer, and that we're saying is not ma'akev. If you do the matana bifnim before the hagrola, it's not ma'akev. Umidasider lo ma'akva, and if that's what the brisa is saying, it comes out that the order of the hagrola is not ma'akev. Ikara hagrola nami lo ma'akva. That would imply that the hagrola itself in general is not ma'akev. So we have a proof again from this brisa that hagrola is not ma'akev. And so the Gemara answers, lo, that's not what the brisa means. What the brisa actually means is as follows: the aktim matanos de par b'mizbeach, that he did the matan domim of the par and the mizbeach, mekami matanos de seir behechel, before the matan domim of the seir in the hechel. All talking about avodas outside the kodesh kadoshim. For Rabbi Yehuda, he in this brisa follows the position of Rabbi Yehuda. The amar dvorim hanasin bebig day lovan bechutz. He says anything that's done in the big day lovan outside of the kodesh kadoshim, lo ma'akvi, that's not going to be ma'akev. Gemara says it's not a good answer though. For habim matanos shebifnim katani. Doesn't the brisa say we're talking about the matanos, the matan damim inside the kodesh kadoshim? So we can't be talking about all things bachutz. Rashi over here explains the aktim matanos de par al mizbeach hapnimi. He does the matan damim of the par and the mizbeach. First you got to put the blood on the paroches, then you do on the mizbeach. And so again, the Gemara said this can't be a good answer because it is talking about matana shebifnim the brisa, not matana shebechutz. And we should just note that this answer and the rejection, starting from lo da'aktim until katani, the Gra takes out that line. In any case, the Gemara now gives a new answer. Elo hamoni Rabbi Shimon. Rather, the answer to this brisa is it follows the position of Rabbi Shimon. T'amar hagrola lo ma'akev, says hagrola is not ma'akev. In other words, you're right. This brisa does say hagrola is not ma'akev, but we already said that Rabbi Shimon says hagrola is not ma'akev, so it's not going to be a question. We have a Tana that holds that way, and the Gemara gives a second answer. V'yiboy same if you want, I could say another answer for the brisa. Liolam Rabbi Yehuda. This brisa is Rabbi Yehuda. Unihid v'sidr lo ma'akev. Granted that the brisa is saying the order of the hagrola is not ma'akev. Hagrola miya ma'akva, but the hagrola itself is ma'akev, meaning if you totally skip the hagrola, it's going to be a problem. Rashi says, when he the v'sirur lo ma'akva hagrola, granted the order is not ma'akev, because again it doesn't say chuka on that. Hagrolam yakyakar lo lagamri, but if you don't do the hagrola at all, ma'akva, that is going to be ma'akev the tana bakra kedamar, because the pasuk says it twice, and therefore it is ma'akev. Now the next part of the Gemara, Rashi says, really should have been learned a little earlier according to the proper girsa. The Azdu l'tamayu, the Tanya, the Gemara says they're following their reasoning, as we learned in a Brisa. Rashi says the Azdu l'tamayu apluksa delo hisvadakai. This is going back on the machlokas, what happens if you don't do the vidui? Really the proper girsa should be to have this part of the Gemara before the part about the proof from the Brisa of par ma'akev es hasair. But in any case, the Gemara now will explain what is the logic of the machlokas by whether the vidui is ma'akev. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Amud Beis.